这个故事如果你听起来不累，那么你的英语能力在美国日常生活是完全够用的。像学母语一样学英语，我们开始吧。
Have you ever imagined a rich man offering you love and money? Have you ever had to choose between a warm home as a mistress or the cold night to keep your pride? Jane was an orphan. She had no mother. She had no father. She had no money to save her. She had no beauty to help her. She had to fight the whole world with just her own heart. At 10 years old, she was small and all alone. Her uncle took her in because he was a nice man, but sadly, death took him too. Before he died, he asked his wife, her aunt, to do one thing. Please take care of Jane. But her aunt had a cold heart. She did not love Jane at all. She had her own children, and her son was big and mean. He was 14 years old. He liked to hurt Jane. In fact, he hunted her every single day. Then, one cold afternoon, Jane was reading a book behind a curtain. She was hiding. She wanted silence. She wanted safety. She liked books because they were her friends. But suddenly, her cousin found her. "What are you doing?" he shouted loudly. "You cannot read our books. You have no money. You are a beggar. You are a person with no money. You are not like us." Jane stood up. Fear filled her small body. The cousin picked up the heavy book and threw it. The book hit Jane's head. Jane fell. Pain shot through her. Warm blood ran down her face. Usually, Jane was quiet. Usually, she did not fight back. But today was different. Today, fire burned inside her. It was not fair. "You are a bad boy," Jane screamed, shaking with rage. "You are like a killer." She ran at him. She hit him hard. Suddenly, her aunt ran into the room. She saw Jane hitting her son. She did not ask why. She did not care about the blood. "Take her away," her aunt yelled. "Lock her in the red room." The servants dragged Jane away. They threw her into the red room. The red room was freezing cold, totally quiet, and very lonely. The bed stood in the middle, big and red. This was the room where Jane's uncle died, so nobody slept here. Jane cried because the door was locked. She thought about her sad life. Why did nobody love her? She tried to be good. She tried to help, but it was not enough. Hate surrounded her. Jane learned a hard lesson in that dark room. She learned that being nice does not always work. If people do not love you, being good will not melt their cold hearts. Night fell, and the room got darker. Suddenly, Jane saw a strange light on the wall. She thought it was a ghost. She thought it was her dead uncle. Terror seized her. "Let me out! Please, let me out!" she cried, pounding on the door. Her aunt came to the door, but she did not open it. "Stop screaming," she said coldly. "You will stay there." Fear took over Jane's mind. Darkness came. She passed out on the floor. After that terrible night, Jane was sick. But her aunt did not want to see her. She wanted Jane gone. She decided to send Jane to a school called Lowood. It was a place for children with no parents. A man came to visit. He was the headmaster. He was a tall, stiff man. He looked serious and hard. Her aunt told him terrible lies. She said, "Jane is a bad child. She is a liar. Watch her." Jane listened. The words hurt her deeply. Being called a liar was the worst thing in the world. The headmaster looked down at Jane. He wanted to scare her. He asked, "Do you know where bad girls go?" "They go to hell," Jane said quietly. "And what must you do to stay out of hell?" he asked. Jane thought for a moment. "I must stay healthy," she said. "I must not die." The headmaster frowned. The answer did not please him. Before Jane left for school, she talked to her aunt one last time. She was not scared anymore. "I am not a liar," Jane said, her voice steady. "I do not love you. I dislike you. People think you are good, but you are bad. I will tell the world the truth." Silence filled the room. Her aunt was surprised. Jane felt a new feeling. She felt free. Jane arrived at Lowood School in the middle of winter. The school was a hard place. It was a cold place. Life there was a struggle. The cold bit their fingers. The water was freezing cold in the morning. The hunger hurt their stomachs. Sometimes the breakfast was burnt and they could not eat it. The headmaster loved control. He wanted the girls to be simple. He cut their hair off if it was curly. He made them wear ugly clothes. One day, the headmaster visited the class. Jane was nervous. She tried to hide behind her chalkboard, but fear made her shake. Crash! The board fell. It broke into pieces. The headmaster saw her. He made Jane stand on a high stool. "Look at this girl," he shouted. "She is a sinner, a bad person against God. She is a liar. Do not speak to her. Do not be her friend. She is bad." Jane stood there all day. Shame burned her face. She wanted to die. She thought, "Everyone will hate me now." But she was wrong. In the evening, Jane cried in a corner, but then a girl came to her. She brought bread and coffee. Her name was Helen. Helen was kind. Jane told Helen everything about the lies. "Everyone will hate me," Jane sobbed. "No," Helen said gently. "If you know you are good, you will be okay. You have yourself." Helen was different. One day, a mean teacher hit Helen on the neck with a hard stick. She hit her again and again. Helen did not drop a single tear. She stood completely still. Jane watched, shaking with anger. "If that was me," Jane thought, "I would break that stick." A sad smile touched Helen's face later. "Life is short," she said. "Do not stay angry. It is a waste of time." Helen taught Jane a great lesson. She taught her peace. She taught her strength. But the winter was too hard. Death came to the school. A sickness spread and many girls died. Helen got sick too. A cough took her strength. She was dying. One night, Jane snuck into Helen's room. Helen lay in bed, pale and weak. "Are you going to leave me, Helen?" Jane asked, holding her hand. "I am going to God," Helen whispered. "Do not be sad. Pain is over." Jane got into the narrow bed. She hugged Helen tight. They fell asleep together. In the morning, the teacher found them. Jane was asleep, but Helen was cold. Helen was dead. Helen was gone, but her light stayed in Jane's heart forever. 8 years passed. Jane grew up. Jane studied hard. Jane became a teacher. But she felt trapped. The walls were too high. She looked out the window at the hills. She wanted to see the world. She wanted to feel life. "I cannot stay here," she whispered. "I want freedom. I want a new master." She put an ad in the newspaper. She wanted a job as a teacher. A letter came. A housekeeper, the leader of the servants, wanted to give her a teaching job at a place called Thornfield Hall. Jane packed her small bag. She left the school. She went to Thornfield. It was a big, old house full of shadows. The housekeeper was a nice old lady. Jane met her student, Adele. Adele was a little French girl. She was not smart, but she was happy. Jane was happy too. She taught Adele every day. It was a quiet life. But sometimes she walked to the roof. She looked at the horizon. She still wished for more. Months passed. Winter returned. One afternoon, Jane went to the village. The road was covered in ice. Suddenly, she heard a horse. A big dog ran past. Then, a man on a horse appeared. The horse slipped on the ice. The horse fell. The man fell down too. Jane ran to help. "Are you hurt, sir?" she asked. The man was angry. He had a dark face. He was not handsome. He looked mean. "Get away," he snapped. "I don't need help." He tried to stand, but pain stopped him. Jane did not leave. "I cannot leave you here in the dark," she said firmly. The man looked at her. He saw no fear in her eyes. Finally, he let her help him. He leaned on her shoulder. He got back on his horse. He rode away without a thank you. He was rude. When Jane got back to Thornfield Hall, she saw the big dog by the fire. She asked the housekeeper, "Who is here?" "The master is home," the housekeeper said. "Mr. Rochester is back." Jane realized the truth. The rude man on the ice was her boss, Mr. Rochester. Mr. Rochester was a strange man. He was rich. He was powerful, but he was not happy. Sometimes silence surrounded him for days. One evening, he called Jane to his room. He wanted to test her. "Do you think I am handsome?" he asked suddenly. "No, sir," Jane said instantly. Mr. Rochester laughed. "You are honest," he said. "Most people lie to me." "Tell me your sad story," he said. "All teachers have sad stories." "I do not want your pity," Jane said. "I am not sad." Mr. Rochester was surprised. He liked her honesty. He liked that she was simple. He liked that she was smart. "Good night," he said abruptly. They talked more over the weeks. Jane learned about Adele. Adele was not Mr. Rochester's daughter. Her mother was a dancer who ran away. Mr. Rochester took care of the girl because he was kind. Jane saw the truth. He had a good heart under his rough face. One night, by the fire, Mr. Rochester spoke softly. "I am a bad man, Jane. I made terrible mistakes." "It is never too late to change," Jane said. They argued often. Jane spoke the truth. Mr. Rochester liked this because money usually bought him only lies. "You are good," he told her. "You are honest and real." But then, one night, Jane woke up. A sound broke the silence. It was a strange, low laugh right outside her door. She opened her door. Smell of smoke hit her. It came from Mr. Rochester's room. Jane ran in. Fire covered the bed. Mr. Rochester was asleep in the flames. "Wake up! Wake up!" Jane yelled. She grabbed water. She threw more water. The fire died. Mr. Rochester woke up, wet and confused. What happened? There was a fire, sir, Jane said, breathing hard. I heard a laugh. Mr. Rochester looked serious. He went to the attic. When he came back, he explained nothing. He took Jane's hand. You saved my life, he said softly. I am glad it was you. Jane felt shy. She pulled her hand away, but in that moment, she knew. She liked him. But the next morning, the house was quiet. Mr. Rochester left suddenly. He was gone for weeks. Jane missed him. When he finally came back, he was not alone. He brought guests, rich, loud people. One guest was a very beautiful lady. Everyone said Mr. Rochester would marry her. But Mr. Rochester wanted to know Jane's true feelings. That night, he played a trick. He dressed up as an old gypsy woman. He hid his face. He held Jane's hand to read her future. He tried to make her say she loved him. He was testing her. But Jane was smart. She kept her secret. Later that night, when everyone went to sleep, a scream tore through the air. Everyone woke up, scared. It is just a bad dream, Mr. Rochester lied. Go back to bed. But he called Jane. I need help, he whispered. He took her to the third floor. The stranger was there. He was bleeding. Someone had bitten him. Watch him, Mr. Rochester ordered. Do not speak. Jane sat in the dark with the bleeding man. From the next room, she heard a wild, angry sound. Before morning, Mr. Rochester sent the stranger away. He looked at Jane. I made a big mistake years ago. I am trapped, he said. Can I break the rules to be happy? He was thinking about a dark secret, but Jane did not know. She thought he was talking about the beautiful, rich lady. You must do what is right, Jane said. You must follow the rules of God. A few days later, a letter came from her old home. Her bad cousin was dead. Her aunt was dying. She asked for Jane. Jane asked Mr. Rochester for permission to go. Promise to come back, he said. Jane went back to the house of her childhood. Her aunt was very sick. She gave Jane a letter. Read this, her aunt rasped. The letter was from Jane's uncle. It was 3 years old. The uncle wanted to adopt Jane. He wanted to give her his money. I hid the letter, her aunt confessed. I told him you died. I hated you. Jane looked at the dying woman. She remembered Helen's lesson. I forgive you, Aunt, Jane said. I will not hate you. Her aunt died. Jane stayed for the funeral, and then she returned to Thornfield. When she returned, bad news waited. Mr. Rochester was going to marry the beautiful lady soon. Jane went for a walk. It was a summer evening. She found Mr. Rochester under a big tree. You are back, he said. Jane, I am getting married. You must leave. I must leave? Jane asked, her voice shaking. Must I leave Thornfield? Yes, he said. It is hard, Jane said. I love Thornfield, and I love you. Tears came. I am poor, she cried. I am small, I am plain, but I have a heart, I have a soul. We are equals. You are my equal, he said, and you are my love. He looked deep into her eyes. I am not marrying that lady. I do not love her. I love you, Jane. Will you marry me? Shock filled Jane. You want to marry me? I want you, he said. Say yes. Yes, sir, she whispered. Suddenly the sky turned black. A storm broke. Lightning hit the big tree. It split the tree in half. A month passed. It was the night before the wedding. In the middle of the night, Jane woke up cold. A strange woman stood by her bed. She had a dark, terrifying face. The woman took Jane's white wedding veil. She ripped it in half. Then she blew out the candle. The next morning, Mr. Rochester lied. It was just a bad dream, he said. But Jane knew it was real. The wedding day came. They walked to the church. The priest started. Does anyone know why they cannot marry? The priest asked. Stop! A voice shouted. They cannot marry. It was a lawyer. The bleeding stranger was with him. Mr. Rochester is already married, the lawyer said. Jane froze in shock. His wife is alive, the lawyer said. She lives at Thornfield Hall. She is a mad woman. This man is her brother. Mr. Rochester looked defeated. He took Jane's cold hand. Come, he said, I will show you the truth. He took them to the house, to the third floor, into the secret room. There was a woman. She was big. She was crazy. She was violent. She growled wildly. She tried to hit Mr. Rochester. This is my wife, Mr. Rochester said sadly. I married her long ago for money. I did not know she was mad. I keep her here to be safe. Jane went to her room. She took off her torn wedding dress. Her dream died. Mr. Rochester came to her. He fell to his knees. He begged. Jane, do not leave. I never loved her. My life was hell. You brought me heaven. Let us go to France. Let us live together. I will give you everything. I will give you my life. Jane wanted to say yes. Her heart screamed yes, but her mind said no. Who cares about the rules? He asked, tears in his eyes. I care, Jane said, her voice shaking. I must respect myself. I cannot be your mistress, a lover without marriage. You will leave me? He asked. You will kill my heart? I must go, Jane said. God, help me! She kissed him one last time. Her heart broke into pieces. Before the sun rose, Jane left the house. She ran away from the only man she ever loved. Jane traveled for days. She paid for a carriage, but her money ran out. The driver kicked her out into the wild. She was so tired, she crawled on her hands and knees. She traded her only silk scarf for a piece of dry bread. She ate pig food. She slept on wet grass. She was starving. She was ready to die. But then she saw a light. It was a small house. She saw two women reading inside. Jane knocked. Food, she whispered. Please. A servant tried to close the door, but a man stopped her. His name was St. John. Come in, he said. They gave her food. They gave her a bed. They saved her life. Jane stayed with them. The sisters were kind. St. John was their brother. He was a priest. He was handsome, but his eyes were very cold. Jane used a fake name. She became a teacher for the poor village children. She lived in a small house. She was still poor, but finally free. One day, St. John came to Jane. He looked serious. "I know who you are," he said. "You are Jane." "No," St. John said. "Your uncle died. He left you everything. You are rich, Jane. 20,000 pounds. Jane gasped. St. John continued, "And he was my uncle too. We are cousins." Jane smiled. She was happier about the family than the money. "We are family?" she asked. "Then I will share the money." St. John said no, but Jane insisted. She wanted a home, not just gold. So they lived together for a year. But St. John was not warm. He was strict. He was hard. He wanted to go to India. He wanted to be a missionary, a teacher of God in far lands. One day, he asked Jane to go. "Jane," he said, "come to India. Be my wife." "I will go as your sister," she said. "No," St. John said coldly. "You must be my wife. You are made for work, not love. I need a partner for God." Jane looked at him. He did not love her. He wanted a tool. "I cannot marry you," Jane said. "It would kill me." St. John stepped closer. "Do not say no to God," he said. "It is your duty. Obey me." Jane felt trapped. The room felt small. St. John's will crushed her spirit. She felt weak. She almost said yes. Suddenly, in the silence, she heard a voice. It came from far away. "Jane! Jane! Jane!" It was Mr. Rochester's voice. It was full of pain. It was full of love. "I am coming!" Jane shouted to the air. "Wait for me!" She broke free from St. John. She knew where she belonged. The next day, Jane went back to Thornfield. She was excited. But when she got there, she stopped. There was no house, only black walls. The house was burned down. Jane asked a man what happened. "The mad woman set the fire," the man said. "Mr. Rochester saved everyone. Then he tried to save his wife. She jumped from the roof. She died." "And Mr. Rochester?" Jane asked, shaking. "He is alive," the man said, "but he is hurt. He lost soft one hand, and the fire took his eyes. He is blind." Jane cried, but hope rose in her heart. He was free. Mr. Rochester lived in a small house in the woods. Jane went there. She walked in quietly. Mr. Rochester sat by the fire. He looked old. He looked sad. His eyes were closed. She brought him water. "Who is there?" he asked. He reached out his hands to feel the air. Jane stepped closer. He touched her small fingers. He knew that touch. "Jane?" he gasped, his voice shaking. "It is me, Edward," Jane said softly. "I am home." He grabbed her and cried. "I am broken," he said. "I am blind. You cannot want a cripple, a broken man. I am independent now, Jane said. I have my own money. I choose you. I will be your eyes. They talked for hours. Mr. Rochester told her about the night he called her name. I called Jane, Jane, he said. I heard you, Jane said. They knew their souls were one. 3 days later, they had a quiet wedding. There were no guests, just two hearts coming together. The dark days were finally over. The house was no longer quiet, it was full of love. Jane was happy. After some time, Mr. Rochester got healthy again. One of his eyes started to get better. He could see a little bit with that eye. He could finally see Jane's smile again. 2 years later, they had a son. Mr. Rochester was able to see the baby's large, bright eyes. Jane looked at her family. She was no longer a beggar. She was no longer a servant. She was a woman who respected herself. And because she loved herself, she could finally love him completely. She was finally free.
太棒了，你把故事听完了，你离英语自由又近了一步。欢迎加入频道会员，支持频道发展。会员可获得影片的中英文对照学习资料、跟读练习视频、影片、MP3 文件等福利。这里是像学母语一样学英语频道，我们下个视频见。